The biggest match of the year is over. Penn State and Iowa. If you missed it, or if you're just looking for a recap of what exactly happened in this incredible duel, then you're going to want to keep watching. So let's stop stalling and start talking wrestling. What's going on, wrestling fans? My name's Josiah, and welcome to Fanco Wrestling. If you're new to this channel and you're a big fan of wrestling news, which obviously if you are, if you're still watching this video, I want to invite you to go ahead and hit that subscribe button because there's a lot to discuss in the wrestling world. Now, of course, the most recent thing that happened in the wrestling world is the Iowa and Penn State match. Now, I want to just jump it straight into the box scores because there's going to be a lot to discuss, and I want to talk about these box scores first. However, I'm going to talk about the individual matches, so I want to invite you to keep on watching even after these box scores. So, first, you see the score 19-17. The Iowa Hawkeyes pulled off a great victory, and it wasn't an easy victory by any means. And like I said, actually, in the Fanco Wrestling Show last week, this was not going to be an easy match. I mean, yes, there were a lot of toss-ups, and things easily could have went Iowa's way. But we know Penn State is Penn State. They do what Penn State does, and they give a good match. So that's exactly what happened. So starting off at 125 pounds, I mean, Spencer Lee came out right out of the gate and just had a stellar match. I mean, he's been pinning guys, teching guys the entire season. I believe he's won every single match by pin or tech fall, except for one where he won by major this season. And this match wasn't any different against Brandon Meredith. He won 16-1 with the tech fall coming in the second period. And he nearly pinned Meredith right away, which would have fired up Carver Hawkeye even more. And I'm talking within the first 10 seconds, he almost pinned Meredith, which would have been absolutely incredible. At 133 pounds, this was an interesting match. So if you missed this, we saw that Rome Bravo Young did pull off the big win here. He beat Austin DeSanto, number 2 ranked in the country. And of course, we know that Rome Bravo Young has lost to DeSanto twice in the past. Now, at the beginning of the match, Rome Bravo Young was in on a nice deep cradle. I mean, this was locked up. You can see it right here. Locked up. He was taking DeSanto over. However, the ref just called it off. And that's still yet to be explained why that was called off, why the heck that happened. And then, so we keep on wrestling, we get back to it. Rome Young takes Santo down, and they're wrestling more. Second period comes around. He gets another deep cradle in, and is called off. And now you see DeSanto just kind of laying there, and you see that maybe something's wrong, whether he's hurt, whether he's injured, and the trainers are over there, Brandon's over there. At the same time that actually it was the first cradle, a team point was deducted for on the side of the bench of the Hawkeyes because I believe it was a control of mat call, but they lost a team penalty point. But now we're back to DeSanto. He's laying on the mat and ends up having to injury default from this match, which gave Penn State some momentum. Now, it's unfortunate that DeSanto was injured. I'm not going to lie about that. That's very upsetting when you see a top-ranked wrestler, and really any guy, go out like this. And DeSanto's, let's get something straight. DeSanto's a tough kid. He's not just going to forfeit and give up the injury default here if he thinks he can keep wrestling. He's not doing that. That's not DeSanto by any means. And so something is wrong here. Whatever it is, I don't know if we'll find out, but that's just something interesting here. Moving on to 141. Nick Lee and Carter Happel. This was an exciting match for Penn State fans when number 2 Nick Lee picked up another bonus point victory on the season, keeping his average bonus point percentage in the 90 percentile range. 90 percentage range. Incredible. 20-5 win. Takedown right away. Just going from that cradle early on, nearly pinned Happel, which would have just shifted momentum even more. But he kept going to that high crotch, switching off to a double, just shooting in, takedown, pretty much putting on a takedown clinic and beating Happel. Moving on to the next two matches. Now, the one thing I'll say here is these were probably the least exciting matches of the night at 149 and 157. And there just wasn't a lot of exciting wrestling here. And, you know, what happened? Well, Iowa won both of these matches at 149 and 157. Lugo beat Clearin. Clearin didn't really seem to be trying to win the match. He just kind of seemed to be hanging on, like he was trying not to get majored or tacked, which is understandable. But like I kind of would have rather have seen Vert go for something and try to actually beat Lugo. It just wasn't happening in this match. Then 157, Caleb Young, not a big point scorer, but he did end up decisioning Bo Pfeiffer of Penn State 6-1, and that brings us to the not I wouldn't even call this the match of the night, and I'll get to that why in just a second. So 165, yeah, the Bull in Vincenzo. I mean, this match was hyped up for weeks, actually since last year, really, since we know that these two are going to wrestle. These two are, I would almost call them rivals. I mean, even though Vincenzo had yet to beat Marinelli up to this point, lost to him twice. And what's interesting now is that both of these guys have lost to the other in their home arena. Of course, Vincenzo lost to Marinelli 2 years ago in the duel at Penn State, and now Marinelli lost to Vincenzo at Iowa in Carver Hawkeye. Right away, I mean, these guys were locking up. They they were looking to go something big, locking up, upper body, and then in the second period is where something massive happened. Vincenzo came in, lat dropped Alex Marinelli straight to his back, get a nice count there, got back points, got the takedown, and that was a big shift for in Vincenzo's favor. And you knew something was coming. Whether it was Marinelli's side or Vincenzo's side, somebody was getting tossed. So Marinelli and then ends up getting the reversal at the end of that second period with like no time left on the clock, which that in itself was a close call. He ended up getting Vincenzo like on his back for a split second, but time had expired at that point. I don't know if I would have even given Marinelli the reversal just because I don't know if he had full control. But nonetheless, he got the reversal. So we're going into the third period now, and obviously Marinelli needs some points. What happened here now? Marinelli ended up getting the takedown at the end of the third period, making the score 7-5, and there were about 15 seconds left at that point, so he had to do something crazy. He tried going for the assassin, was not able to secure it, and ended up losing to Vincenzo for the first time in his career by a 7-5 deficit. What a match it has been up to this point, and this is where, I mean, we know something. I was going to have to do something big here at this point. I would need something big at this point in the match and step in Michael Kemmer with a great win over Mark Hall. What a match. What a match, man. I mean, this was absolutely a great match. And this match, and this is something that I've said, is that people are underestimating Michael Kemmer. Why they're underestimating him? Well, he's bumping up 2 weights. From previous seasons. We've seen him wrestle top guys like Penn State from Jason Nolf. He wrestled him in the past, lost to him 2-3 times, was not ever able to beat him. Now he's bumping up. Highly unlikely that he beats him. That's what people were saying. Not what I was saying. Not what I was saying at all. Kemmer comes in here. Now, at the beginning of the match, Hall came in with a nice headlock and just launches Kemmer. He rolls through right away and ends up getting nothing there. Kemmer ends up rolling through off that, getting on the leg, getting the takedown. Now, what happened here now is Hall end up getting a beautiful step over and reversal in the first period, and then at the end of the first period, Kemmer got his reversal. So, I mean, this is just from the first period, from the onset of this match, it's just point after point after point after point. This is the best that I've seen Kemmer wrestle up to this point, possibly in his career. I mean, this was just a heck of a performance by Kemmer. So then we get into the second period. Nice high crotch, switches off to a double in the second period. And now at this point, it's 7-6 going into the third. Kemmer ends up getting up. It's 8-6. He gets the escape. And then we're wrestling. Kemmer drives into Hall for a takedown in the third period. And then ends up winning the match. And Kemmer was dominant. I mean, this wasn't a match where he just looked good, okay? He was taking down Hall multiple times, not on any, like, jip calls or anything like that. He looked good. And I haven't seen anybody take down Mark Hall like that in quite a while. He had a little gesture at the end of the match, which I believe he kind of went, he pointed to his palms, and then, he gave that, and I believe that was kind of a gesture to to guard there. He's kind of giving that there, which that's something that I like to see, even rather than like, getting up in your opponent's face, which you do see a couple guys do. But Kemmer is that type of guy, and I really like to see that out of him. Right there. Moving on to 184. And at this point, please let me know what your thoughts are on the match. I haven't even asked you directly what your thoughts were on the match, but it was my favorite duel of the entire season so far. At 184, we move on to Aaron Brooks and Saad. Of course, this is a number 10 versus number 8 matchup, and it ends up going 7-3 with a victory for Aaron Brooks. Anything could have happened here. These are two young wrestlers, two true freshmen. Now, Saad, actually, he's a guy who comes out there right away, tries something crazy, tries something sweet, and that's exactly what happened. He tried going for the headlock, just like Marinelli did in the previous match, but Saad of Iowa goes for the headlock, doesn't quite get it. Aaron Brooks just kind of goes through with it, gets his head out, and gets two. And going through the match, Brooks takes down Saad a couple different times, shoots in on a single, and at the end of the first period, actually, he lifted Saad straight up off the mat and took him down at the end of the first period with limited time remaining, ended up winning that match 7-3. A nice victory, even considering that Saad had some solid wins in the past over a couple guys like a Taylor Venz, who who Brooks was not able to beat last week. So this is making for an exciting upcoming end of the year. And then the last two matches, of course, we have Jacob Warner going up against Shakur Rasheed. Warner not a big point scorer in this match. The final score ended up 4-2. And Rasheed, unfortunately, he just did not look that good. He wasn't really shooting much. I mean, he knew he was down in the second period. He had to get a takedown because Warner got that takedown early on. He knew he was going to have to get the takedown. He didn't really shoot much until the third period. He took a couple fake shots and then ended up actually getting in on one sometime in the third, but wasn't really looking that solid. Kind of unfortunate. I don't know if that's due to an injury or what's going on there, but didn't really look that good, whereas Jacob Warner he looked solid. And then moving on to the heavyweight match, of course, we had Tony Cassiope versus Seth Nevels, and these two guys, I was interested in this match mostly to see how Seth Nevels was going to stack up to a guy like Cassiope. Now, Cassiope did end up getting that victory and giving the Iowa Hawkeyes the ultimate win, 19-17. But the thing here is that early on, Nevels was actually Cassiope shot in. Nevels was in on the re-attack from Cassiope and actually had his leg. I mean, he had Cassiope dead to rights. He was spun behind him. He had his leg, and then he ended up getting his leg up in the air, trying to take him down. Wasn't able to do it. Couldn't trip and take Cassiope down. And Cassiope is the one who scored. He was just able to get in on him. Now, the one thing that I found interesting that the announcer said during this match was that Cassiope, I believe, and excuse me on the stats, but he said in his last 2 years, I believe, of high school, he did not let up one offensive attack. So that just shows that Cassiope is a guy who's able to be very defensive and win those matches, win those scrambles like that, like he did against Seth Nevels, and he ultimately won that match. Here again are the box scores for the Iowa and Penn State match. You see, of course, Iowa in yellow and Penn State in blue. Now, the other thing I want to say is that Iowa is now 9-0 and Penn State is 7-2. This is the second big match in Iowa's revenge tour. Of course, beating Ohio State last week and then beating Penn State this week. They have a couple good, solid upcoming matches in their schedule, and just a solid overall performance by the entire Iowa Hawkeyes, the entire Penn State Nittany Lions. What a match, man. That was incredible.